Welcome to the method, Man Enough to Heal, Overcome and Dominate. This is a safe space for men where we talk everything men's mental health, wellness, and just everything, vulnerability. I'm your host, Javier. This is co-host, AD.
How you doing, everybody? My name is AD, and I'm here because I feel like I have a lot to offer and a lot to talk about when it comes to the subject of men's mental health, something that we consider to be very imperative to what's going on in society right now, and especially men, but women as well. And we just want to try to give some tips and even start a discussion on how to conquer these things or counter these things and just make you understand that you're not alone with this way of thinking. So with that being said, one of the things that we had discussed behind the scenes that we wanted to talk about is how just trying to deal with family life, providing, and when we talk about family, that could be your children, that could be a significant other, aunties, uncles, whoever that's in your life that's important to you, that you're taking care of, or even just watching how you operate and how you move. Because a lot of times we don't understand that goes to the mental health that we suffer from is the pressure of others trying to see if we can succeed because we fail the whole group of people. So I'm gonna ask you, for someone like yourself, successful, the industry that you're in, and trying to just be a better human, how do you deal with stuff like that in your own household?
Honestly, you know what? Most days you feel like a failure because it's like you never living up to that standard. And you can have five good things happen.
Right.
It's that one thing go wrong, I'm a harp on it. And it affects your anxiety, and a lot of people don't want to talk about that. When you walk around and you got panic sweats, you're having panic attacks, your chest tight, your muscles stiffening up because you're so worried about being a failure to your family. It's the weight of the world being on our shoulders, man, and don't nobody going to talk about it.
How you deal with that though? Because it's not something that's, one of the bigger issues is talk about it, you consider weak.
Yeah.
Something wrong with you. So if you can't talk about it, you can't show it. How do you deal with it?
Honestly, for a long time, I did. For a long time, I didn't. I had my vices. I did, I did a lot of wrong stuff, just trying to cope and trying to hide. I became somebody that I wasn't. So like to answer your question, present day, I hit the gym. I got a TikTok platform where I speak about it to other men. I talk to other men about it, and as I'm talking to them, getting them to open up to me, I'm almost like I'm talking to myself. you know. So I've even gotten to a point, me, man. Like, long story short, me and this man go back to 1992. Freshman year of high school. Um, sophomore for you. But it's like, when I when I'm talking to guys about it, and I'm getting them to open up, I'm looking in the mirror to them, and it's allowing me to be able to just kind of step outside of my comfort zone and talk to sometimes strangers just about how are they doing, you know. And what I was starting to say before, like even on social media, I don't do social media like that. I've hopped on certain pages and just chat and just chatted with them like, hey man, I feel what you're going through, stay up, just offering words of encouragement.
You're not alone.
Yeah. And people have done the same thing to me.
Right.
And it's just sometimes, honestly, one way I deal with it is admitting I'm having a bad day.
Right.
Because sometimes we'll wake up heavy.
Right.
Because we know the pressure of the day is gonna get to us.
Right.
We know that day is absolutely gonna suck. And you start future forecasting how bad it's gonna be. And sometimes I tell my wife, yeah, today ain't gonna be one for me.
But you know what, though, not to cut you off. One of the things that when I was teaching, I used to tell my students that I tried to demonstrate as well. We have to learn to not make a bad moment into a bad day.
Yeah, yeah.
Because a lot of times that's the issue. We sit back and we have issues going on. This may have happened with this person or this situation, but it's still a whole day in front of you. But we've allowed this one situation to bring you down.
Yeah.
Especially with the pressure on our back. So it really magnifies times 20.
Yeah.
And then this person or this situation, whoever that made us, perturbed, they gone off their business, but we still sitting there filming on top of the normal stuff we got to deal with.
Well, see, the crazy thing is that, like, and this is the one thing I'll say about our platform is we not speaking on like women in their struggles, because they got their own sets of struggles. But I feel like there's so many different platforms for women to get get stuff off their chest. We taught to suck it up. We taught to basically shut up and play ball. Go pay a bill, and it's just it's not right, because it's like I shared before. Suicide is real, and men make up 70% of the suicides because it's pressure.
Yeah, and I think it's even worse type of pressure when it comes from the people that you care about most.
Yeah,
or at least that you thought probably reciprocate those same emotions towards you. But sometimes when you find out that's not the case, that people are sitting back and expecting things from you, but they're not giving something in return.
Exactly.
Or there's disrespect or just lack of appreciation. Because us as men, we don't require a lot to be happy, but we do require some things to be happy. And not a lot of people want to give what's required for the man to be happy. A good pat on the back. Hey man, great job, or whatever. Because we're taught that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So why are you worried about us saying this or saying that? It's the little things that matter, because we're gonna do it either way it goes.
Right.
We're gonna keep on full steam ahead either way it goes. And when you feel like I'm just doing it like I'm on a hamster wheel, versus doing it because I'm proud to say I got these people on my back, I'm fighting for them, and at the same token, they're fighting to keep the name afloat, make sure that I'm good, and when we don't have that, that's where the struggle comes in and becomes an issue, because we can't afford to just be like, well, I'm not going to do this.
No. Well, it's a lot that won't get done.
Right.
And that goes both sides. But like, if us as men in the head of the household, if we throw our hands up, nothing moves right.
Right.
Right. And it's even down to like, and I could speak on my situation when, just being a single dad for a while, and if I would throw my hands up and said, okay, you know what, kids, y'all go stay with your mom. I can only imagine,
couldn't afford to.
Yeah, I couldn't afford to, and I couldn't do that to them, because they didn't ask to be here.
Right.
And me as a man, it's my job, no matter what the status of the family is, I'm gonna make sure my kids are good. I'm gonna make sure my family is good. And I think that we wear so many hats that don't get noticed, like you had mentioned earlier.
Right.
So it's a matter of like really being able to get men to stop suppressing that,
right,
and be open about it. Because the more we can talk about it, the more we can understand. Hey, you're not alone.
Right.
I understand you, bro. I feel you.
Right. So when you mentioned about the family, and I want to segue into this, so that we both can relate to how do you feel when time goes by, and now we're talking about the adult years. All the sacrifices that have been made for family members, whether it's children, spouse, parents, whatever the case may be. And we understand the challenge when they're younger.
Yeah.
Or even when we're younger, because we're still trying to figure things out.
Right.
But as we get older and we become more established in this thing called life, and we are positions, occupations, things of that nature. So how did it affect you as everybody around you got older, as well as yourself, and it wasn't necessarily reciprocated from them?
Oh man, I feel disposable as hell.
Right.
And that's the thing. Like, I don't care who it's from. I think I can say that most of my immediate family, like my kids and whatnot, it's previously I was only as good as I can do, because as my kids got older, it wasn't hey, let me go check on Pop.
Right. There you go.
It wasn't any of that,
Understood.
So it's like, and in certain things, it's been just choices I've made in life.
Right.
Past relationships that I knew weren't helping for me.
Right.
But like, so I can't speak about like relationship, I can speak about like far as partner wise. I can speak about my kids.
Right.
Feeling disposable. And going back to something what you said earlier about family, the appreciation piece means a lot. Like when my wife tells me, "I appreciate you for doing that," or "Thank you so much," or
Means the word.
it means so much, And I always tell them like,
And it's genuine.
Yeah, that's the thing. That it's just
It gotta be genuine. It can't just be, in shape.
Yeah, and that's something that honestly I never had before.
Right.
I never had somebody tell me like that. Somebody that I'm pouring into genuinely appreciate me just doing that.
Right.
It became expected.
Right.
And the one thing will be if I feel like it's being if I feel like it's being expected, I'm gonna stop doing it.
Right.
And sometimes with kids, it becomes that too.
Yeah, yeah, and I can relate to that. When it's all said and done, everything we did was for the sake of our family, because it was always going to be easier to be selfish.
Oh yeah,
Wouldn't have been the right thing.
Right.
It would have been easier just to be selfish and think about self. And when you put into your family, like we both have done, and then when you feel a lack of appreciation, it's bothersome and it hurts and it cuts like a knife. But once again, with us not supposed to show the emotion, we keep on moving. I remember one time I was having a conversation with my cousin. Shout out Shalonda Allison, psychologist in Indianapolis, and we was having a conversation about children. And the conversation was the difference between helping versus enabling. And we were trying to decipher what's helping, what's enabling. And to be honest with you, it was all kind of the same thing. It was the only difference was the tolerance level of the one that's doing the giving.
Okay.
Because enabling can come in all different shapes and sizes. And you can enable and help at the same time. It can be considered the same action, depending on how you feel like that you're giving and how they're accepting.
Correct.
If you give a kid $20, your child $20, here you go. And they take it and say, you know what? I'm going to take this, go buy a bus pass, just get me to and from work for the week. You feel like, okay, that was $20, go spend it. But they say, I got this $20, I'm going to Burger King with this. Like, well, hold on. So really it's all about that, the motion in between, the action in between. So for me, when it comes to the stress and the lack of appreciation from a family standpoint, where I struggle is I'm still in that gray area. I need to get to the point, I know this, and I'm working on it. I need to get to the point where I just stand up.
Right.
And not care about the backlash and the fallout, because I've done way more than enough.
Right.
And it's still like, okay, and
yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's not okay, especially when you're raising young men, because that's not the way the world works.
Right.
Like I always try to tell my children, like, hey man, those that separate themselves from the general of your generation will soar like an eagle. Because y'all not doing nothing but the same thing the rest of the people in your generation is doing. But the ones that separate themselves from the pack, there's a lot of money to be made, a lot of people that sit back and get opportunities, But when you do like everybody else, man, and that's what hurts me, is we know what's going on out here. Yeah. We've been through it. Everything they're going through now, we've been through it, and they don't listen. That's another thing that bothers us too. It's like, man, we're not talking because we have nothing better to say when we're giving advice.
But you know what, though? We was the same way coming up. It's hard to get through to somebody, especially when they at that age where they're grown, like between, I'm gonna say 19 through 27. You probably at your stupidest, because the bad part is you're an adult in age and size and everything, but mentally you still got a lot of going on, especially as a man.
Right.
Because it's not like we can have a child, like bear a child that's gonna grow us up. Because we can have children, but how many people run out like children?
Right.
So a lot of men don't grow up right away, and so they don't always feel the need to listen to the old head. But it's there's a lot that I wish I could have really went back and redone.
Right.
But I definitely think that most young men have to bump their head.
Yeah.
And that's they need to have that come to Jesus moment. They need to have that cold night in jail You know, they need to have something that really wakes them up.
Right.
You know, because that's what's gonna make or break. It's gonna be either okay, this hard time right here showed me I'm better than this, or you know what, I'm gonna adapt to this hard time. This gonna be just I ain't gonna be worth nothing because I don't want to work to it.
Like my mother always say, poop it out the pot.
Yeah,
It's a long time, man, and you're 100% right. And what's crazy is for me at this point in my life, especially like I get a lot of guys that work with me that are constantly working. So now I'm OG.
yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
OG, man.
Yeah, now I'm OG. They call me because I'm giving all this wisdom. You know, they sit back, man, OG, let me pick your brain, man. How you think I should handle this situation at the house? Or me and mom's, just another, whatever, whatever. I'm talking these 25, 30, because they 30 something years old. They look at me like, well, back in your day.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I think 1900s.
yeah, you know what I mean? But it feels good to let me know that I'm doing some good. So those that don't appreciate, it's y'all lost. 'Cause I got people right here that never had it, that's appreciating having it. And I'm just some guy that work with them. They observe how I carry myself. And they're like, man, okay, I got to pick your brain, man. If you ain't saying it's all good, we going to leave it alone.
But you know what's crazy on that? On the flip side, I'm actually the opposite because, like, while I love giving game to anybody that'll listen,
Right.
I find myself I became bitter because I felt like I was pouring into so many people and I didn't have nobody to turn to. Like, people don't understand the importance of a big homie.
Right.
Especially as a man, it's like, man, I don't need no big homie. I am the big homie.
Right.
The niggas be 20, you know.
Right.
But it's like sometimes I sit back and I'm like, man, I wish I had a mentor to just, you know, where I could pick their brain or
Right.
somebody that's a level above me that I'm comfortable with.
Right.
You know, there's a bunch of people way above me, but I'm not comfortable going to them. Especially, and it's rare that it's someone that looks like us.
Right.
You know, so I found myself, you know, people they'll call me all the time, like, hey man, you know, they want to ask about financial advice or they need to look over some business documents or, you know, asking about various topics of my primary field.
Right.
And I would enjoy the conversations.
Right.
But after I hung up every time, I'm like, man, I got nothing out of that outside of like
Gave,
gratification. You know, I got gratification from helping.
Right.
But I know that when I'm struggling on any facet, I can't call that person.
Right.
So it makes it hard to really want to give back that time.
That's the interesting counter right there. I can understand that, and you know that's why this is so good for us to do this cast, man, because you know we're different but the same. We have the same morals and values, but we were raised two different ends of the spectrum from the standpoint of, you know, who you had in your life and who I had in my life. Like I have guys I can call and talk to right now because since my father wasn't around, my mom always made sure that whether people do church, things like that. Shout out Craig McKenzie. We talk all the time. He's a mentor of mine, big brother. You know, that I could just talk to people, that she always made sure that those bases were covered because she knew she couldn't teach me how to be a man.
Right, right.
You know what I mean? And you, as a dad in your life, you learn certain things directly from.
Yeah.
You know, but in the end, where we all meet is we have these same principles and how we use this to better ourselves. And even with these principles I learned from these other guys, you learn from your dad, stuff like that, we still hurt like everybody else in the end.
Yeah, yeah.
That don't change.
You know, I'm glad you went that direction actually. And mind y'all, we literally just chopping it up. That's gonna be weekly. We chopping it up, and we want y'all to chop it up with us.
Correct.
But like if you bring up my dad, you know, people don't understand how I lost my dad almost a year ago, and that was my rock. That was my person. And you know, grief changes people. You know, we talked about this off the record just yesterday actually. And I always knew. I always said if I lost a child or if I lost my father, I don't know how I would do. And I can tell you, this man been going almost a year, and I ain't been right ever since. You know, because it's a part of you dies with it. You know, and I look at people differently. I have some.
He was a major part.
He was a major.
He wasn't 50%.
Yeah, he was a
like half major. He was a major part.
You know, he was my compass. He was my one where I'm like, you know what, I don't like this, or you know, or nah, Pop, I want to do this, and he can talk me off the ledge, and he can recenter me. Now I don't have that recentering me, and it's like I have a healthy relationship, but I don't feel it's fair to put that on my woman. So it's like, and then I can talk to my guys, but then internally, I've learned to internally shut down and isolate. So when I'm having a high anxiety day, man, it's hard. It's hard to do anything. Most I can do is go lift weights. Um, I work remotely half the time, where I'm kind of all over. And
talking to your guy, not to go, but talking to your guys is like an equal. You want to talk to somebody that's been there, done that.
Yeah,
so they give the constructive criticism or advice because they've been there.
Yes, and they got through.
Right, and they tell you what's coming.
Yes, yes. So it's like when you don't know what's coming, and I'm the type of person, if I don't know what's next, I spiral. And that's part of the reason why me and AD tapped in months ago to really start trying to put a platform out there, because honestly, we don't have it figured out.
Nah, we
still figuring out. So don't get it twisted. This ain't a podcast of people. We not no experts. We two men from the city of Milwaukee that have done some amazing things, but we want to have a community of people that just want to heal. Like peace is priceless.
Yeah.
And we talk about this all the time, but I don't think any of us really know what peace feels like.
No, because really, if you have peace, it shouldn't be broken up just like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of times your peace should be a force field from the chaos.
Exactly.
If your peace is strong peace.
Exactly.
Like I always say, my home, that should be my peaceful force field from everything going on outside of the home. Work, play, whatever case. But when I come home, there should be a place of peace. That's one thing that lacks. So we don't have peace at home. You're not have peace anywhere.
No.
Nowhere.
And the thing is, as a black man, one thing that I was telling my partner just the other day. Now, as a black man, we wake up and everything's against us if home ain't right.
Mm-hmm.
Because other black men gonna look at you and compete. Like, oh, man, who was he? Man, he got this nice car. I wonder what he do. It's rarely, oh, man, I see my man doing good, proud of him.
Right.
Right. And, depending on what industry you're in, we in two different industries, but we have the same issues. I'm in corporate America, and I have to really,
I'm in construction,
and I have to like prove to this day, I have to prove I'm more than, just a well spoken, black dude.
We both work in two non-minority dominated industries.
Yeah. And you got people looking at you, what type of person are you?
Right.
And it varies off their opinion. So we got everybody looking at us crazy. And then if our home ain't right, everywhere's a battlefield. And then you develop a chip on your shoulder. There's a lot of us out here that's really we angry on the outside, but in our reality we hurt.
Yeah.
And it comes out as anger. But if I can't talk to anybody, it's gonna come out somehow. That's like if you're sick. If you're sick, you're either gonna throw up or it's gonna come out or you got the lungs.
Right.
It has to come out.
Right.
So if you bottling up your emotions constantly, that stuff gonna come out.
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely. And the hard thing about that is not knowing when you'll be able to receive that relief.
Yeah.
When you're talking to someone such as your spouse and let's face it, man, our kids are grown. You should be able to have those same conversations with them and to be able to have this conversation, but you don't receive in return like some type of, hey man, it'd be all right. Mm-hmm. Because one thing about me, I never felt like age dictates your knowledge level.
No.
Because we were younger guys that were smarter than a lot of older guys because from when we listened, we observed, we implemented, and we did what we had to do.
No, real quick, I'm gonna challenge you on that because, I'm gonna go opposite. Age kind of matters a little bit to me, just because like I got a guy, he's a pastor at one of the churches I attend, real cool dude, and he really checks in on me. He's 37, former pro ball player, good dude, but it's like in my head, like when he be counseling me and just trying to putting game on me, and I'm like, bro, I'm 10 years older than you. It's like it's subconsciously like if he's completely right,
right,
and we can relate on so many levels. But it's just in my head, I'm like, I've experienced more life than you. So yeah, I'm listening to him, and he helps me tremendously.
Right.
But it's like the age gap does come into play still.
How many times have you experienced conversation with people and they've been around longer than you, but still don't get it?
Oh, a lot, because what's
Right.
crazy. I remember I was probably 16. I got an older brother, and that's my guy. But we came up totally different. And my dad told me when I was probably 16 years old, he was like, you probably gonna have to be the bigger brother to your big brother when it comes down to conversation and just life in general. And that's how it's been. Like, that's my dude. He's kept me out of a lot of jams. Don't get me wrong. Like my brother, I owe who I am today to my father and my brother.
Right.
Because my brother, he would always, he never glorified the street life.
Right.
He actually showed me what was wrong with it, even though he was directly in it. But
I can relate to that.
Like with Lyra.
Yeah.
Your cousin. So it's like, being able to have somebody keep me out of trouble, but then allow me to guide him, and he's my big brother. I can definitely say I've talked to people throughout my life that were older than me, and they were able to listen to me, and I was able to drop knowledge on them.
Yeah. And see, I guess I look at it from the standpoint of just myself, because I was always when people say I was an old soul.
You were.
You know what I mean? So I was able to relate to older people at a young age versus people my own age, because a lot of times people my own age they were doing things that I just like, that's kind of immature, but yeah, average for that age.
Right.
And I look back, even some of the things I've done, some of the things I do now is because I have older friends, and I like to keep that going just because I feel safer that way. When I say safe, I'm not talking about like getting killed or good night. I mean, far as emotionally safe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because these people have been through things. Now we coming from this standpoint. This is what we're doing. I'm watching them, how they operate. Every time I'm sitting down with them, they kick it down game. Finances. This is what you do with your money. Boom, boom, boom. And then I encounter people that are younger that have that mindset. I used to really hate when I was younger that people try to categorize me like, oh, well, you young, you don't know better. I'm like, well, I know more than you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, but once again, the more of the story is there's knowledge in all different shapes, sizes, and colors. And the ones that stand out, those are the ones that be blessed in the long run. Because this thing called life, man, it's just, to keep up on the same point, it's just hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. And we just want to give you guys a platform that you guys can watch and understand that there's two brothers right here that's experiencing some of the same things. And we want to hear from you guys, just comment on whatever the case may be of what you guys are going through, subject conversations, something you maybe went through the last week or so that needs to be talked about, or whatever the case may be, because, we're only speaking from our experiences and from some people that we've talked to, but we know the population way greater than who we interact with on a regular basis. So we definitely appreciate you guys' support.
So with that being said, I want y'all to take this, like I said, tap in with us, comment. Let us know what you want to hear. And don't hold back.
No.
That's the thing. We want to have this be a vulnerable space, open space, because the only way anything ever gets better is to talk about it, and then talk about different ways about how to heal, how to cope on a day-to-day basis.
There's a no judgment zone.
So with that being said, that's the method. Y'all have a good night.